My name is Marion Kelmer, and stay tuned because we're going to talk about combine settings for a successful soybean harvest using a red combine. Today we're going to talk about some combine settings for a successful soybean harvest, and we're going to go through three major areas. We're going to go and talk about the threshing concaves. We're going to talk about the separating grates, and the third thing we're going to talk about is the cleaning area of the combine. Now this old girl is about 25 years old. I'm 63 years old. Every day I learn something new about harvesting, and I just want to pass that along. Hopefully you'll find some of this information of use. Today and this year we're seeing some really tough conditions for cutting beans. I've got green ones in the field that don't want to thresh, and I've got bone dry beans that readily fall out of the pod. A successful soybean harvest starts right here in the rotor area, and I need to focus more in that area than I used to, and it's making my combine work better every day. So combines are designed at the factory regardless of color, whether they're red, green, yellow, or gray. They are designed for maximum flow because we're going to harvest corn. And we've got to be able to get 200, 300 bushel corn drop through the rotor area and get it into the cleaning area. But we all switch back and forth, and then we jump over to soybeans, and years past I never even opened up the side of the combine. I'd just go reset the sieves and the airspeed and take off, and I was never happy. But today when we switch from corn to beans, or now we're set up now where we've got one combine devoted specifically just to cut beans, and I've got a red combine devoted just to shell corn. And I've got to go into this machine and I've got to make some adjustments. I've got to tighten things up to get them to thresh. I've got to be able to tighten things up to keep from overloading the cleaning system, because it can't handle all of the fodder that comes out of a soybean plant. So this is a threshing concave. This is a large wire that's very common, been used for many years. And when the soybean plant comes into the rotor area, these pods are going to come off of the stem. Most of them will, not all of them. And they're going to come into this threshing concave. And because it's so open for corn, these pods are going to drop right through. I'll do it again because it's just so common sense. This hole is very large and this bean is very small, and it drops right through. And it doesn't get threshed, it goes onto the auger bed and it goes back, and then we're tightening the bottom sieve, we're running a lot of return, we're trying to re-thresh, and it just isn't going to work. So years ago, people came up with this concept, even my dad talked about it when I was a kid, of cover plates. And we've got one slid underneath this large wire concave. What the cover plate does is stops the material from dropping through the large wires and holds it into this chamber so that we can now rub pods against pods. And that's how we're going to get them to open up. And you can see they're going to fill this area in and they're going to rub against each other. So I'm increasing the performance of my combine. I'm increasing the threshing power of my combine, regardless of color, so that I don't have to send that pod back for a second pass. So some of the other combines have re-thresh systems in them, and so on and so forth. I'll pass along a bit of information, came from my grandfather to my dad down to me. If you do it right the first time, you don't have to redo it. I want to thresh the pod the first time it comes through the machine. That way I don't have to deal with it the second time around. So you can get cover plates from Abilene Machine, and they have them for red combines, green combines, and I bought mine a long time ago. That initial installation is something hopefully you will do during the off season, and then when it comes time to cut beans, you just slip that plate in there, snap it in, ready to fly. I can also talk a little bit about threshing concave inserts on green combines. I don't think that's aggressive enough, and we'll have a video for you on green combines, about how to get them to perform as well. So cover plates are an absolute must. I'm running 2 of them, so that means I'm covering about the first 12 or 13 inches of the threshing concave, and then I'm going to start to open things up and let them fall on down through. Now, if it gets real bone dry, then I'm going to step in there and I'm going to pull one of the cover plates out and just use one. But on that first dry down, green beans, I'm running 2 plates, 12 inches, regardless of color, 12 inches, solid steel, make them rub against each other. Then we're going to start to open it up a little bit more as we move through the threshing area, and we should be good to go. Second thing we want to talk about is the separating area, and that's going to be the back half of the rotor area behind the firewall. And now we start to change the shape of the grates that are used in the separating area. This combine has 2 options. It has the square bar or key stock grate, which is pretty common from the factory, and then as you read through the owner's manual, it talks about the slotted separating grates. And again, this is going to close it up a little bit more, and the reason that I want to do that is because I don't want to let all of the threshed material drop into the auger bed, because now I'm going to have an overloaded chaffer. And that's very common, regardless of color. I got too much material to deal with in the cleaning area, and it should have stayed up here in the rotor area, and it should have gone right on out the back of the combine. So I don't want to dump this ground up green silage down onto the auger bed and onto the sieves. And you can look in here on a close-up, and you can see the separating area. Some of the green pods are still hooked to the stem. They're open, the lima beans are gone, and they're going to go right on out through the rotor and right into the straw chopper. So want to tighten that up in that area a little bit as well. Also, this combine, we have the luxury of being able to adjust in the top part of the rotor cage, transport vanes. We're going to stand them vertical for corn because we want to keep from getting into rotor loss, and in soybeans we're going to advance them. We're going to kick the straw out of the combine as quickly as possible. I use an air ratchet. I blow that area out, and an air ratchet with a deep well 9/16 socket, sip them loose, spin them to the advance, tighten them down. I do that between corn and soybeans because it is an unbelievable change in the performance of this 25-year-old combine. And the new red combines that come out of the factory now off the assembly line, they have a button in the cab. You can rotate those vanes from corn to soybeans. Phenomenal change in performance. I get more horsepower. I get less crap in the tank. It's just an unbelievable enhancement to this machine. So my job as the combine operator, not a driver, I'm an operator. When I switch over to beans, I'm a balancing act, and I want to keep as much as I can up in that rotor area without getting any rotor loss. I always watch my monitor. If I get things too tight, I'll start to trickle beans out the rotor. If I've got them too loose, I'm going to overload the cleaning system. So it's a balancing act to make sure I get maximum performance out of the 2 main areas of anybody's rotary machine. The cleaning area. I used to struggle with that one all the time. Red combines, especially the older ones, are notorious for dirty grain tanks. And this is why, because the rotor's not set correctly. But as we get to the cleaning area, if I've done my homework and I've got the right concaves and the separating grates and I've got the vanes adjusted, it's just a walk in the park to set the sieves and to get a clean sample in the tank and to use the correct amount of air. So, from my original days, I used to spend my time adjusting sieves and fans. Today, I spend my energy and my time in the rotor area when I go from corn to beans, and to be quite honest, we don't really have to do much adjusting to the sieves. A little tip in the cleaning area is to look in the grain tank, and if you're not happy with the sample, and it's just common sense, take time to look at the sample in the tank. Is the foreign matter that's in there, is that object larger than the soybean, or is it smaller than the soybean? If it's larger than the soybean, that means I need to tighten up the sieves. If that material is smaller than the soybean, the only way it's going to leave the combine is in the airstream. So that's another little tip that we've been passing along this year, getting a lot of calls, and occasionally people will call in, got maximum air, I've got the sieve wide open and I'm still getting beans out the back of the combine. That's telling me one thing, I got them too far open, I'm getting way too much material, I'm asking way too much out of that cleaning area to separate it all, and it's just a chain of events. And so what I tell everybody, I said the first thing, go take that sieve, shut it all the way down, start over, and then just reopen it and it'll clean right up. It's amazing. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed the information. As always, feel free to send me a text message, or you can call me, send me a photo, any of those things. I'm happy to help you. My cell phone number is 309-368-1182. I may not always get to it right away, but eventually I will get you called before I go to bed at night, and or call me early the next morning, and we'll kick around a few ideas, and I guarantee you we're going to get your combine to run the way it's supposed to, so that you can have a successful soybean harvest and you can have a lot of fun doing it. With that, I want to say thanks for watching the video, and have a safe and fun harvest.